For 65 years, America knew his face from a poster, but no one could say his name. On a quiet road outside Philadelphia, something was left behind that would haunt generations of investigators. The box was ordinary, almost forgettable, until detectives realized it had carried a child into history. They called him America's Unknown Child, a title that sounded gentle but carried a terrible accusation. His photographs spread through neighborhoods, newspapers, and police stations, but recognition never came. Some cases fade because people forget. This one survived because forgetting felt impossible. The mystery was not only who he was, but who had made sure he disappeared. Decades later, science would open a door the original investigators never had. The discovery began with a routine walk through brush, the kind no one expects to remember forever. The box did not belong there, sitting too carefully among broken weeds and winter mud. He opened it only enough to understand that this was no abandoned trash. Fear made him step away first, but the image followed him out of the woods. When he finally called police, his voice carried the weight of something he could not name. By the time detectives arrived, the roadside had already changed from ordinary ground into evidence. A blanket suggested care, but everything around it suggested someone wanted distance. Word traveled fast, but the facts came slowly, each one heavier than the last. The first problem was immediate and chilling. No one nearby seemed to be looking for him. Was he brought there after death, or had the woods been part of the final act? In a city full of families, the silence around one child became its own evidence. The examination found injuries, malnutrition, and one brutal truth. This child had not simply been lost. The details were confusing. Signs of neglect, yet also signs someone had cleaned and groomed him. The box had a history of its own, but tracing cardboard was easier than tracing a life. Detectives knocked on doors, asking families to notice an absence they claimed they had never seen. His face became public property, repeated so often it almost replaced his identity. Calls came from everywhere, but every promising lead seemed to collapse under closer examination. One theory pointed toward a nearby foster home, but suspicion is not the same as proof. If he had lived in a home, investigators wondered why that home left so few traces. Scars suggested a medical past, yet no hospital record brought detectives closer to a name. The longer the case lasted, the more the absence of a family became unbearable. Witnesses remembered fractured memories, cars, strangers. Odd movements, but nothing strong enough to hold. The search moved from streets to institutions, from homes to records, from hope to exhaustion. He was buried with prayers, flowers, and sorrow, but still without the one thing every child deserves. The case did not close. It simply learned how to survive inside dusty folders. Reporters returned to the story because the unanswered question had become part of Philadelphia's conscience. Decades later, a woman told a disturbing story, but detectives could never fully prove it. Some details sounded possible, even intimate, but possible details still leave dangerous gaps. The case punished assumptions, turning every promising theory into another test of restraint. Whoever held power over Joseph also held the silence that kept him unidentified. One responsible theory asks whether Joseph was moved quietly between adults, outside official records. If Joseph passed through hidden hands, the paper trail may have been broken before police began. Years later, DNA would answer one question, while making the old silence feel even stranger. His identity would lead to parents, relatives, and privacy, but not automatically to a killer. The family tree gave Joseph a place, but the years before his death remained shadowed. Time became the perfect accomplice, erasing witnesses, softening memories, and carrying suspects beyond reach. The public wanted a monster, but investigators needed evidence strong enough to survive truth. Behind every theory was a simpler truth. A 4-year-old child had been failed completely. As years passed, the case became famous, but fame did not make it solved. Strangers brought flowers to a grave, because someone, somewhere, had refused to claim him. The breakthrough did not begin with a confession. It began with preserved evidence and patience. To find his name, investigators had to return to the place where anonymity had rested. Old evidence rarely gives up secrets easily. Time damages even what investigators protect. Genetic genealogy turned distant relatives into quiet signposts pointing back toward Joseph. A distant match was not an answer, but it was the first real direction in decades. She built families backward, generation by generation, until possibility narrowed into something human. Then a document appeared with a name that changed the silence: Joseph Augustus Zarelli. For the first time, the child in the box was no longer only a description. Announcing the name meant solving one mystery, while admitting the deeper one remained open. In December 2022, the world finally heard the name investigators had chased for generations. Joseph had his name back, but the room still held one impossible question. His relatives were given answers wrapped in pain, privacy, and questions no document could settle. Identifying biological parents helped reconstruct origin, but origin is not the same as custody. Knowing where Joseph came from did not reveal where he spent his final days. The unanswered gap was custody. Who had Joseph when protection should have mattered most? The most responsible theory stays cautious. Someone close enough to control him also concealed him. The evidence showed harm, but not the face of the person who delivered it. Every cold case has a missing witness. Here, that witness may have known Joseph's daily life. At last, the grave could carry his name, not the wound of public uncertainty. The name changed the file, but it did not erase the failure written through it. Investigators still asked for information, because one recovered name did not recover the final truth. Memory kept Joseph from vanishing completely, but memory alone cannot testify in court. The timeline had a beginning and a roadside ending. The middle remained painfully unfinished. It was a choice made after something already irreversible. The blanket raised a question detectives could never shake. Was it pity, habit, or staging? The contradiction was cruel. Someone may have cleaned Joseph after failing to protect him. The science gave Joseph a name, but justice still had no person to face. The killer may have died with secrets intact, but secrets can still leave fingerprints in memory. To tell Joseph's story responsibly, the mystery must never matter more than the child. For living relatives, the discovery was not content, it was grief arriving decades late. The final question was no longer who Joseph was, but who allowed him to become unknown. The road looks ordinary now, which may be the most unsettling detail of all. What we know is painful. What we do not know is why the case still breathes. Responsible investigation leaves some names unspoken when evidence cannot carry the accusation. He was a child before the world made him a case. Silence protected someone, but it sentenced Joseph to decades without his own name. The file remains open because naming the victim does not absolve the living from answering. Somewhere, a story may still exist in a family rumor, a drawer, or a guilty memory. At night, Susquehanna Road still feels like a place holding back a final sentence. If you discuss this case, remember the center was not mystery, but a child. The question worth asking is not only who killed Joseph, but who knew he was missing. Joseph Augustus Zarelli, a name recovered, a life remembered, and a truth still waiting. The archive can close for the night, but this case has never truly gone dark. The empty chair remains, but now it belongs to someone whose name we can say. Whoever left him there may be gone, but the decision still echoes on that road. Some files wait, not because investigators stopped caring, but because someone else never spoke. Say his name carefully, because for 65 years, the world could not. Joseph was found, but justice is still asking the same question. Who finally tells the truth?